rocket too, and like we're in the Bay Area, so it'd be hard to say which companies are coming out. But a lot of people are networking. A lot of people are finding employee one, that sort of thing, and co-founders. And a lot of people are coming expressly for that purpose. So it happens. I don't personally have that success story where I can say SFBR created this company. Not yet. Not yet.
I think with SBBR, we have a few companies that have definitely found key employees and partnerships that have been made. I don't know that we have a company yet, but we might have a company in there or two that has been formed within that community and say, we helped contribute to that, at least created the environment that could happen, and that's something to be proud of.
I was really excited to see at our meetup a lot of indie developers who had come specifically because PreOKR was there, and they wanted to know how it worked. They wanted to try it, and then, I'm going to go home and I'm going to work on having my game happen with that hardware. That pleases the hell out of me, because I want to see these indie devs look at this stuff, maybe sometimes for the first or only time until it's available to consumers, and then say, oh yeah, my game needs that. My game desperately needs that. And so for me, to hear several people do that at a meetup, that's a win.
That's a pretty nice success out of New York as well. I mean, New York is surprisingly well represented at this meetup. I see James Andrew from Rift Wars, whose game is actually a really interesting story. He collaborated with a member of the Boston meetup to create his game, which has since kind of gotten a lot of publicity. Frank Nora, who is essentially had zero development skills and zero development background, came to the New York City meetup, was like super inspired by the things he saw, and really just kind of dug in, just like I'm gonna make this game, I'm gonna make this Night Station, which is actually he has a booth now here. So I mean, he really inspired me to kind of work on the exercise thing. So I think it really feeds off each other. You see people that have really dove in and have made great progress, and really kind of facilitates other people and inspires other people to get their hands wet, get busy working on this stuff.
And that actually makes me think the other thing that we kind of witnessed, which is that devs have an audience at a meetup, to test their stuff, to show it in person, especially when they haven't yet released something. I think from a development perspective, that's invaluable to be able to meet with people face to face on a regular basis, see the same people, get their feedback in person, watch them do it, have people line up, see reactions one after another. You get to sort of test the psychology of your game, your experience. So,
which is a lot better than putting it just out on the internet for everyone.
Exactly.
Right, you can watch their face drop, oh.
I'll jump in there. I think that touches on a really key point is early getting feedback on prototypes. I mean, that's one of the most valuable things a meetup can offer a company, and I think the relationship there is two-way. It's very fair. I mean, I'm really proud of the influence that SBBR has had on the STEM system. 6 Sense is at almost all of our meetups. I think they've been to at least 10. And they're there showing prototypes, new grips, new versions every time, getting feedback from the community. And I think that's the way it should be with a startup, where they actually reach out to the community and put their stuff in people's hands, get feedback on it right there, and then just keep iterating and bring it back next month. I totally love that. I'm really proud of the influence we've had on STEM, but I think that's a good model for other companies.
In regards to what comes from these kind of meetups, I just wanted to acknowledge really quick the team from Australia. Can't make it here, so Jake Tracy, for example, absolutely instrumental in getting it all organized and going. Can't be here, unfortunately. Jeanette Everest is also part of the team organizing the Australian Virtual Reality Industry Association over there. Joel Ross is sitting over there. Did I forget somebody? Sean Tian, of course. He was kind enough to contact me on Reddit when he saw that I founded the meetup on meetup.com. That was actually just a couple of days after Jay founded his meetup, and then we decided to combine it, and it's just the most amazing people that you meet there. Chris Zavaria is doing neuro control with the Rift. It's just some of the, I don't think he has shown it publicly yet, but it's amazing stuff. Nathan Beatty is doing work with the Leap. The Leap people actually use his demo as their go-to demo for VR. It's pretty cool. And you meet all these people. It's just really pioneers that you meet there. As somebody said here, you know, co-founders of companies. Employee number one is just amazing.
Awesome. Very, very cool.
I just wanted to chime in. Over in Hawaii, we've got 2 startups brewing, one of which I can't talk about because it's not my startup. But the other one is mine, and I wouldn't have met my awesome co-founder if not for the club being there. So I can vouch for the importance of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. To switch gears a little bit, a lot of people in the audience here might be wondering, well, how do I do a meetup in my area, in my city? How do I get this off the ground? So what are some of the best practices and some of the lessons learned that you've had from making these meetups and having this experience?
Listen to devs. I mean, I think that's the key to the whole thing, is that it's for the development community, right? I mean, it's for everyone. It's for people that want to try stuff, it's for people that want to just are just curious, but developers are the heart of it, so that's, I think everybody would agree. That's kind of, they do have to, or disagree. They do. It's about, you know, listening to what the development community wants and what might be of benefit to them. So I think that's the real starting point. Is first you got to get the meetup online, but maybe Cosmo can actually speak to that.
Yeah, well, meetup.com makes it pretty easy. It's like in 5 minutes. Well, I was fortunate enough to find the location for our first event pretty easily. We had our first event at Digital Domain. That was awesome. We're not figuring one of the XR Lab, which is cooler. But yeah, finding a location probably the outlier. It's probably a lot harder for most people. I'm not sure how you guys found your venue. But in terms of best practices, I suppose I guess the common knowledge that Carl and Matt were telling me is to keep the presentations relatively, lots of pizza, actually.
Free food.
Pizza and extension pizza.
To keep the presentations relatively short. I think ours for our first one actually too long. Most people are there not to sit and listen to people, but they want to try out the crazy cool stuff that developers run over. So that should be the bulk of your time if you're going to be doing the meetup. Yeah, so absolutely, I cannot say that enough. That's the biggest mistake that I made early on. Was like, I'm going to throw this huge event, and people are going to want to hang out for hours and hours and hours. And yeah, 1 o'clock, that's a good time to do a meetup. Yeah. So the biggest thing that I learned is keep it short, keep the talk short, give people time to have Q&A. It's why the companies are there. They want to interact with the audience. And then the biggest thing is that the people who come to the meetup, that's the coolest thing that the meetup has. In my opinion, it's the people there. There's great tech, great companies, and I totally value all the contributions that are made by everybody. But it's the group is what's so cool. You're going to find your friends, you're going to find business partners. It's a good thing. In terms of finding a space, that's the hardest thing. That is the hardest thing about starting the meetup. Meetup.com makes all the rest breeze. Find the space, and you're golden.
See if you can find a hackerspace in your area. Those are a good choice.
Yeah, that's what SPBR does. I mean, our first meetup was here in a classroom. We rented it out, but that was not sustainable financially. But a hackerspace works great.
Or a
traffic.
co-working space too.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I can't stress the advertisement enough, obviously meetup.com, but putting it on the internet, I was really surprised because we did ours at a university, so we didn't have exactly one big open space. We had several kind of classrooms and double classrooms, and we had this big long line of people all staring, waiting to get in. And I just kind of get up and did the Willy Wonka thing, and I'm just like, and they all ran past me. I'm like, okay, have fun, eat everything. It was fantastic.
I actually played the Willy Wonka.
Did you?
At the beginning of my event. Our tickets are called golden tickets.
Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should get golden tickets for the meetup next
No, I mean I love that movie and the book, but I think it's true that it's like that's kind of the environment that I seek to provide at these meetups is
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It is a world of imagination.
I'm Willy Wonka, and Johnny's my Oompa Loompa. But so, I mean, really, it's a room filled with awesome people and awesome technology that you've never seen before. And that's like what, like, it needs to be fun and exciting. And that's what, okay, I don't know.
And keep me away from the chocolate forever.
In terms of best practices, I just wanted to add that I found it important. I've run meetups since 2007, pretty much. That you have a fixed time, let's say every second Thursday, at the same time, the same place, and then don't switch it around too much so people know where it's going to be, even if they don't look at the announcements or they don't check meetup or whatever. They just know, oh, okay, well, tomorrow is Thursday, I might just go to the meetup, to the VR meetup. Also, don't stress too much in regards to making it a professional event with speakers and food and drinks. Nobody cares. They just want to experience the rift. As long as you have a rift there and you can talk about it, it's really all you need to have a fantastic meetup.
I'm going to just disagree a little bit. I think that having a little bit of a speaker beforehand kind of hypes people up and kind of making them wait a little bit. If you we've done it both ways in New York. We've had people kind of come in and just kind of no presentation and come in and try stuff out, totally free form, open bar, whatever. And then we've had kind of projector set up with kind of more formal stations, and just talking about it a little bit. You see people in the audience, their eyes go wide, and they're looking around. They want to know what are they going to get to see. I feel like that little bit of time, or you make them wait, kind of builds the tension a little bit, and it makes it more exciting.
We do that at SPVR. We make them wait.
Yeah, it works. I think you need a little talk. You need something to kind of break it up too. If you just have people come and show up, it turns into like a house party, which is totally fun. But if you break it up a little bit, you have a lot of engineers. My goodness, a lot of engineers. And so I like to give them a little break from social hour. They go and watch a talk. It's totally cool and relevant, blows their minds, and then they go back and they talk. It works out well. So I like the talks, but not too many.
I think education too, if you can provide like a little workshop to newbies, just walking them through the tutorial of how to get started in Unity or Unreal, because that's how I started. One of the people in the club happened to be really good at Unity, and I was like, hey, can you teach me? It's like, I can follow videos on YouTube and watch tutorials on my own just fine, but there's something really cool about an actual person sitting next to me, doing it, together, entering the VR world that we just made. It's crazy.
Very awesome. We are going to wind down our time in just a little bit, but I just want to kind of go down the line and have everyone tell me what is your most memorable moment from your meetup thus far. The most memorable moment.
Matt Groening. The fact that the creator of The Simpsons showed up. That was kind of mind-blowing. I mean, for anyone that watches The Simpsons. And then to see him trying to riff for the first time and trying your game phase for the first time. And he's such a cool guy, such a nice guy. So, some of the random people that come through, I think, too, who aren't celebrities, are also pretty memorable. Cosmo, if you have any stories.
My favorite moment was right before we started the presentations at the very beginning. I was on the stage looking over all these people just like we are now, and just knowing that I helped create something that hopefully is going to be important. I was very proud of that moment.
I have two. So the first one is the collab with you guys. If you guys didn't come out to the GDC VR Mixer, it was second to all the other meetups, the coolest VR thing I've ever been to. So great. We had people lined up out the doors. The first time it felt like, wow, VR is really going to be a big thing. We're at capacity, and we have tons of people who just want in, and this is what it's going to be like. This is what VR is going to be like. It's going to be huge, and that was the first time I really had that feeling. But then my story from SFVR, because that was collab, is there's a guy named James Blaha who came up and talked. He came up to me and said, I'm working on this thing about treating people with lazy eye. And I was like, that's so cool. And then I asked him back to do a demo, and then like it made so much sense when people were coming away from that, and it was like, you could see that he was making a positive contribution, people were getting it. And then I asked him at the last meetup to come and talk, and now he's having just this great success, that successful Indiegogo, and to see that sort of come up from somebody in the SF community, and I don't, if you guys don't know, he's creating a product that treats people using VR to strengthen their weak eyes so they can see with stereo, with depth, and that's just incredible. The first time in their lives. So anyway, to see that come up through the SF community was, I think, my biggest win. It's really amazing.
I'd have to say, I guess I had two as well. We did, one of our booths was the VR chat, and they have people come in to the meetup, the meet space meetup, and then meet up inside. Shout out to Gunter and the boys at VR chat. To have a meetup inside, a meetup reception, it was fantastic. It was virtual and it was real. That was a big deal. But I guess the big thing for me, there was a mother, I don't know, I guess the boy was about maybe 10 or 11, and I said, oh, it's very cool that you brought your child. No, he wanted to come. Mom, you're taking me to this meetup. It's all he's been talking about for like 2 weeks. That really did it for me. I was like, if it had just been you two show up, I felt like I did my job. Right? That was very good, touching.
And where else would that happen?
Exactly.
What?
So I'm sure you guys can relate to the unboxing experience, right? So a year ago, last March, when I got my Rift, I still had it in the cardboard box. I picked it up from the airport, brought it down to the hackerspace, and called everybody I knew and said, hey, meet me here, we're going to open this box. And it felt so much better than just opening it by myself, because I got to share that experience with people. We were all just like, we popped in a Tuscany demo, and that was the only demo at the time, so that was pretty cool.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
I just wanted to share my favorite experience of this. I always love the reactions. People they put the thing on and then it's, wow, eyes open. Jaded people, who have seen it all, put the thing on, they come out, wow, it's a show this to my friends. But this one meetup, we had a guy there, Indian guy, big guy. Right? I put him on the roller coaster, and he starts giggling and laughing and so loud, couldn't hold on to himself. Most amazing, and then he takes it off. Everybody starts clapping. I love that. That's great. Every time you put it on to somebody for the first time, it's just.
I think just the experience of this last meetup was a validating experience. When we started, we were 7 people. It's like grimy might not even be appropriately. It was a grimy little conference room in a small grimy building in Midtown, and we had 6 or 7 of us. And then this last meetup, we were invited to open up Microsoft headquarters. It was a beautiful building. We had a beautiful view. We had the beautiful people started to come very well dressed and clean. So it was just it was a real kind of turning point where it was like, okay, this is no longer like the grimy nerds in a grimy space. This is kind of the beautiful people are starting to take notice, and it was nice. It's a nice little moment.
Speaking of turning points, I would add one other story. I think maybe my favorite meetup moment, my favorite meetup moment was really the collaboration between San Francisco VR and Silicon Valley VR. They threw a party, I don't know if anybody was there, but it was a collision of communities. And that's when things really explode. We've got this whole development community here that needs this whole other meetup over here. They come together, and the kind of interaction that you can have, because everyone's already on the same level, and it's like 2 football teams coming together. It was incredible.
Clash of the Titans.
I'll I'll give mine. I have two actually as well. One of them is, I won't call them out, but it was an entrepreneur in our group had a company that they had been working on a product for a long time. And he said he was about to give up, and he came and showed it at our meetup, and now he's completely re-energized and has a lot of potential. And I'm really excited that we kind of gave him the boost he needed to keep that going, because I think it actually is going to go somewhere. And the other is, I've had not just one or two, but I've had at least 6, 7 people like tell me in an email like the night after a meetup that this was the best night of their life. Like, and I'm like, really, your whole life? But I understand it, because the energy that's in this community when you come and everyone's just pumped up, and there's just electricity in the air, and you feel we're on the edge of something really important. And I like just that energy and like, you know, affecting people at that level. I think that does it for me. That makes it all worth all of the work.
I guess I'll finish it off here. Yeah, I think the very first meetup that we had, and then Nate Mitchell shows up from Oculus.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one.
Yeah, oh, that was a huge moment, and seeing the room packed to capacity, standing room only, and it's like wow, this is beginning. And part of the reason why me and Carl did what we did was because that's growing up. I always fantasized, what if I was there with Waz, dude? What if I was working on it? You know, what if I was there with Carmack Romero? What if I was old enough to be there? You know, and be like, yeah, I'm programming too, you guys. But you know, it's one of those waves of technological revolution that only come around once in a generation. It's happening so fast, but this is that moment. You know, I'm grabbing along with both hands, and I get to see it. This is that moment. I looked around the room at that time. It's like, yes. And I think the other part was the first time someone was like, Cinematic Bruce, you're the reason why I got a rift. I watch your videos. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? And that's really, I mean, you put out videos, you put stuff out there. And you're like, oh, I got 10,000 hits. That's amazing. But when someone actually physically comes to you, shakes your hand, and tells you what impact your content or your words or your ideas have on how they're going to make their decisions about their life, and it's a huge, huge impact. Something I will never forget, for sure. And with that, I think that concludes this panel. I would like to thank all of our guests in the audience for kindly listening. We're going to have about 5 minutes to transition. The next panel up is Startups in VR. It's going to be a discussion about the opportunities and the logistics of getting a startup off the ground in this space. And, it's the right time. So we're going to have some great people that have been involved in VR startups. And we'll see you in 5.